Hi, welcome everybody. We're just getting our technical stuff sorted here, but welcome to the UK Healthcare Tableau user group. This is our last session of the year, but we've got some exciting plans for you for next year. Just a quick rundown of our agenda. We've got Andy Cotgreave talking to us. There he is, waving to us. And then we've got Klaus Schulte speaking to us. Oh, there we go. Here it comes. And then we'll have a little bit of a comfort break. And then Dilesh is joining us. He's going to talk about his IronViz entry with us. And then Rowan, Bradnum and friends is going to talk to us about preparing for Tableau calls. And then we'll do a little prize draw at the end for some fun Tableau swag. So you're probably wondering, if you've never been before, who are these people that are talking to you? Well, hi, I'm Charlotte. Next slide, please. Hi, I'm Charlotte. I work for NHS Arden and Gem at CSU, and I'm also a Tableau ambassador, new for this year, which was very exciting for me. I worked in the NHS for about 15 years and specialised in data visualisation, particularly using Tableau, which I've enjoyed very much. Life-wise, I live in Lincolnshire, which is a large county that no one's ever heard of, so don't worry about it too much. Over to next slide is Steve. He's sitting just there.
Is my microphone working okay? I don't know. Hi, I'm Steve Adams, Viz DJ, Tableau ambassador, social ambassador. I've been working with Tableau for about 10 years now, and exclusively I've been training with Tableau for the last 7 of those, working as a freelancer. And absolutely love working with the NHS, which is why I am here.
Okay, I'll get to the next slide. We love tugs, and we hope that you do too. There are some cool tugs coming up in the next few weeks. We've got the Tableau Healthcare user group, which is the American version of us, so our sister group. They're going to be doing some things with the Data Plus TV data set. The Tableau Public user group is tomorrow also, and you can also join the Analytics Tableau user group on Thursday, which has a talk from someone you'll be familiar with, as Steve is presenting at that. And if you could just go to one of the slides at the end, because I reordered them. So just click through. I reordered them and didn't tell him about it. That one.
That one there.
Go back.
That one there.
That one. So, hey, we need you. So our Tableau group is nothing without you, the users. You are the users in the tug. If you want to host a Tableau user group, if you want us to come to you and you can act as our hosts, we can get people to come from your region. Brilliant, scan that QR code. And if you've got interesting stories to tell, want to show off some skills, or just want to teach us something, scan the QR code to speak, because we would love to have you. We're hoping to do some sessions next year, slightly change our format up. So we've got lots of speaking opportunities coming up. But for now, I'm going to hand you over to, if you could go back to the Andy Cotgreave slide.
There he is.
Thank you. This is Andy. Andy is a senior data evangelist at Tableau, having worked in the industry for 15 years. Andy helps customers, media, and analysts across all industries see and understand their data. He has inspired thousands of people with technical advice and ideas on how to identify trends in visual analytics and to develop their own data discovery skills. If you want more of Andy, you can sign up to his newsletter, How to Speak Data, and you can also join him this Thursday as he hosts Chart Chat with Jeff Schaefer, Steve Wexler, and Amanda McCulloch. And this month, they're talking about charts on screen. And with that, I will hand you over to Andy. Thank you.
All right. Hi. Started using Tableau in 2007, and I built my first dashboard in 2005. So I'm in my 20th year. Good crikey. I didn't know it was called the first dashboard I ever built. I didn't know it was a dashboard. I was just trying to put some charts on a piece of paper to get rid of a tyrannical boss who kept annoying me. And I was like, have those. And it worked. And I was like, oh, that was cool. What's that? First of all, thank you everybody for being part of user groups, whether you're hosting or attending. Another fun fact, I organised the first ever Tableau user group in Europe in the same month as Andy Kriebel organised one in the US. So that was back in 2008. You know, they're an amazing way just to bring people together. right? And that's how you advance your Tableau skills and your analytics career skills. I'm going to talk to you today about data storytelling in the age of AI. Woo, how exciting. So I'm going to chat. And I'm sorry I'm not there with you today. I said that, right? I was supposed to be, but circumstances got on top of me. So we're going to talk about data storytelling in the age of AI. And Charlotte, I've got, what was my time limit? Till 1:45?
Yes.
All right. Okay. Well, if I'm still talking at 1:45, just shut me up. I suspect I'm going to finish a bit earlier. All right. I've got a new quote for anybody who's seen me speak before. This one's new. I want you to tell me when you think this quote was written, and if you know by whom, super bonus points. No prize, just kudos. So this is a quote by somebody who was developing a new way of visualizing information and was very passionate about they wanted to do it. So it's a very simple quote. Words divide, pictures unite. On chat or out loud in Manchester. What year was that written? But does anybody know who by? Is anybody giving me answers?
Sorry? Is Darren thinks, is it Florence Nightingale?
No, good try. 1822 from Pete. You've gone too early for this one. Oh, Ali, boom, on chat. You have nailed it. Do you know what year this was, Ali? You probably know. Basic, but similar to well.
In the 30s, maybe?
Yeah, 1931. So this was Otto Neurath, who was born today in 1882. And Otto Neurath was the creator of the isotype system of showing data. He was like, we don't need words. We can do this with pictures, and we don't need boring bar charts. We can use graphics and units and things like this. So really, really huge influence on design, communication, and the data field. And Otto Neurath forms a nice little plug for what we just mentioned is happening on Thursday, Chart Chat. Does anybody recognize this screen grab from a TV show? Can anybody tell me what TV show this is from?
It's The Handmaid's Tale.
It is The Handmaid's Tale. This is season 1, episode 1, Offred, when Offred is just... Aunt Lydia is here telling everybody about the plague of infertility that led to creating the sort of child-rearing slave centers that form part of the show. Yeah, look at that chart on the screen. Ooh, doesn't that look familiar? Well, it is familiar. I think it's a really very clever direct reference to the work of Otto Neurath, and it's got that sort of technocratic, austere, dry, slightly scary. So I think brilliant work by them. So that's from The Handmaid's Tale. Going to be one of 10 charts we're going to dissect in detail in Thursday. So we've got 9 other charts from Squid Game, The Office, Star Trek, The Expanse, and much more. And we're going to go through and think about what does it allude to? Why is it a good chart in the show? Chart we could build outside the show. So I'm very excited about Thursday. It's going to be a great one. So just Google Chart Chat and join us on Thursday. But let's talk about storytelling in the age of AI. If anybody has any comments or questions in live room or on chat, just shout them out or type them. I can see chat. So just ask and answer questions as you wish. As Charlotte says, I've been doing this for a long time. She's already given you most of the things. There is a new book coming out in probably September next year, a follow-up to the big book of dashboards. But we've got to write it first, so we're busy doing that right now. Now, I want to set some foundations about data storytelling first. And if you've ever seen me speak, you will have seen this example before. If you haven't seen, let me talk through this. This is one of my favorite charts of all time. It's by Simon Scar, and it shows deaths in conflict from Iraq, 2003 to 2012. Scar had the genius to turn the bars upside down, color them red, and tell this really powerful story of human loss in Iraq. And the bright idea that I had was turn it upside down, or turn it so the bars are pointing the normal way, color it blue, which is much more neutral, or even a positive number. So now we can focus on the fact that there was a lot of conflict-related deaths here, but you know what? They got to the best place they had in this data set. So really, this is about a story of deaths being on the decline. in the same data set without changing the data. I've just changed the orientation, and that allows me to change the story I'm making, right? So this is the power we have with storytelling. Data visualization isn't neutral. Every single chart we build is a choice, and every choice you make, whether you know it or not, is an opinion you are expressing. So I'm going to do this talk in sort of two ways. I'm going to try and do the first bit in about 20 minutes, and then we'll talk, the rest of the talk will be about, well, can AI do this for us? And what's happened there? What did I do there? Yeah. So first of all, finding data stories is something, if you've been using Tableau for a while, you're used to the power of Tableau. And you'll also know how incredible Tableau helping you find the right chart. We have been used to using Tableau for many years to explore data sets like this. And the right chart, we know, depends upon the question you want to ask, right? So even with that simple data set, we could ask 7 questions. We could probably ask 20, 30, 40, 50 different questions. And each question requires a different chart or a different paragraph of text. You could even summarize the answer in text or in a text table. And it depends, even though we ask simple questions, we never really articulate the story we actually want to tell. And just as a shout of yes or no, how many of you are familiar with the phrase, we need a single source of truth? Are we familiar with that?
Yeah.
Lots of nods.
Some nods. Do we believe it? I'll take that as unsure rather than or not confident in one's own answer. So the reason I bring this up here is because I find the only people who use this phrase are the people who are trying to sell software or CIOs, right? Because we know that really it doesn't exist. This example shows it doesn't exist. And I actually got in a bit of trouble recently because I was interviewed by a journalist in October. And the one quote he put in the story from me was, there's no single source of truth. It's bullshit. It's a selling tool. I got in a spot of bother for that because it was like, that's not quite the Salesforce message, is it, Andy? I'm like, well, no, it isn't. But I think there's no such thing as a single source of truth, because what examples like this show is that at best, you can have a single source of facts from which you can tell your own truths, right? I can even tell you by choosing different average aggregations, I can tell you that B is better or that A is better, right? That is the truth I can legitimately tell from a single data source. So I will continue to get in trouble with my bosses because that's what I believe. Tell that to the next Salesforce AE who tries to give you a single source of truth line. We'll see how long it is till I get fired. All right, so finding a story is about understanding that a question, however well intended to be articulated by a user, falls apart at the first. It's like, well, what did you mean? What actually did you mean by asking this question? The next thing we do is tell stories, right? And this is a game where we're going to get to in a minute. So I'm going to go through this bit relatively fast because I think some of you may have seen it before, and I really want to get onto the AI bit. What I've realized over years is that telling data stories is about pushing or pulling levers in different ways to try and emphasize one part of a story over another, to try and emphasize detail over summaries. So I'm going to go through my levers model. These are the levers I think are the most important. And by the way, is it bugging anybody that the second E on this slide goes to the first E? This is using a transition in PowerPoint called a morph. And no matter how hard I have tried, I cannot get the first E to go to its right place. Anyway, so I was doing this talk live once, and I saw somebody kind of take a double take, and I realized that is actually really quite triggering for data nerds like us. But anyway, so I've tried to fix it, but I haven't managed to. So let's go through 6 ways in which, as humans, we can push or pull levers to tell different data stories. You can be granular, or you can be sparse in level of detail, right? So both of these charts are showing the prevalence of polio across the USA from 1930 to 1965. The chart at the bottom was the award-winning version from the Wall Street Journal in about 2017, and each block in this matrix represents 1 year for one US state, and the color represents the amount of polio. The black line represents when the vaccine was introduced, and woof, what can you see here in this granular version? The same thing you can see in the line chart. There was lots of polio, and then there was very little polio. This sort of emerged on social media when they published it. It caused loads of celebration in the data viz community because it was a really cool way to view the data. The interactivity allowed you to see different things. Until about 2 weeks into this frenzy of appreciation, somebody said, well, hang on, shouldn't it have been a line chart? So some people started going, it should have been a line chart, and they drew the line chart. So this is the sparse level of detail. And the thing I have a problem with here is, well, I don't have a problem with the line chart. It shows that polio is going up and then it went down, right? That's great. But it sacrifices detail. So in both of these visualizations, you can see the main story very, very quickly. But in the line chart, you lose that secondary level of detail that you might want to explore. And when you are out there viewing and critiquing and considering charts that you like, always be wary that when you see an interesting line chart, never ever think it should have been a line chart. The mistake I think the community made here was that they were saying it should have been a line chart. No, it could have been a line chart, but a line chart hides things for the in order to convey information a little bit quicker. So level of detail is your first lever. The second one is, are we going to be dry or emotional? Here is a bar chart, the most boring but beautiful bar chart I could possibly find. Shows pollution in Sheffield on the week of bonfire night in 2014. So the big blue bar is the amount of particulates in the air on the evening of bonfire night. So guess what? If you're an environmental consultant, this reveals that bonfire night is a particularly bad night if you've got asthma, because the atmosphere is a disaster. So this is the dry bar chart. This is really effective if you're analyzing data. Here's the same data visualized as a plastic necklace where color, shape, size all encode the same information we just saw in the bar chart. Why would Miriam and Stephanie have built this necklace? Well, they built this for an exhibition in the city centre of Sheffield. Now, much as I would love the entire population of Sheffield shopping people to be active, excited, energized data analysts, I don't think most of them give a hoot about a bar chart. The thing I do know is that you can capture non-data people through emotional mechanisms. And this was a really good way to bring the conversation to life without boring them with bar charts. Charlotte, I know you worked at the NHS, so it's not in many business organizations, there's not a lot of opportunity to do this, certainly not in this way. But it's amazing how many times you can think, well, how can I bring emotion into things? Maybe not in terms of a physical visualization, but just by adding emotional triggers, like the Iraq bloody toll chart, to your formatting. So that's emotion, and it's somewhat linked to vagueness. V is for vagueness. You can be precise, or you can be ambiguous. Here we've got COVID back in January 2022, so nearly 3 years ago. We've probably forgotten now, but January 2022 was a month that looked like an absolute disaster for COVID. It was going to be a really bad month. And the New York Times ran with this story showing the projected cases for the month of January 2022. Each line in this chart represents one of the previous months of the pandemic, and the x-axis is the day of the month. So they all have 30, except for February, or 30, 31, or 28. So here, the New York Times have used precision, a really accurate line chart, angle, slope, to convey the data very well. But they also did this version of the chart too, which is the opposite side of the lever, ambiguity. And I will often ask, what does this look like? People will tell me tapeworm or French horn or female reproductive system. It looks like a lot of very weird things. What's going on? The timeline is going round in a spiral. So each spoke represents a month of the year. The distance from the center is the time of the distant time since the start of the pandemic. And you get to here and you can see that January is this this terrible prediction of future cases. So why on earth would the New York Times do this? Well, this is not something you can decode accurately, but this is what the one they put onto social media. The point being, this will stop you in your tracks on social media. This one probably won't, right? And the goal of social media is to attract people's attention. This would do it. And if you can then also get the person to click, which is the other challenge on social, but if you can get them to click, when they click through, they would see the accurate view of the chart. So really clever dual use of the vagueness lever to be accurate and ambiguous with the same data set to focus on the different audiences. Again, don't put this on your business dashboards, but there might be times you could do this in reports or even presentations. Oh, I would say that with huge caveats. By the way, if anyone's disagreeing with me, feel free to pipe up. I will happily engage. E is exploratory. Are we going to explain our visualizations or are we going to leave people to explore them? Depending on which we do, we will create very different visualizations. So here is the late and great Hans Rosling keynoting at Tableau conference back in 2014. Hans Rosling, amazing Swedish physician, wrote this amazing book, Factfulness, and really brought statistics and understanding of data to millions and millions of people. When he presented, he had this incredible 8-meter long stick, which is just one of the best presenter props I think I've ever seen. Not something you probably want to take to your business meeting room the next time you're talking to your boss, though. But the point is, look at the chart behind him, right? He is there to explain that visual. So he's got massive fonts. He's got very little data, huge fat icons, bright saturated colors. You probably would not build a Tableau dashboard for internal usage that looked like that. I can't think of a use case why you ever would. But he's pushed the levers here because he knows he's there on a big screen and it requires a big simplified story. Business dashboards, on the other hand, like this one from the big book of dashboards, have loads of information. So this one's from the first book of dashboards. It's got 96 pieces of information on it, 93, I think. So that's a huge amount of information. But if your users are familiar with exploring data, then they're happy to do that. Look at that. So E, you've got to think, am I explaining this through a video or a presentation, or are the users exploring it? And that lever will change how you do your charts. Penultimate one, rapidity. So just as a quick show of hands, or give me a shout from the room, who has seen this chart before? Charlotte, give me.
Yeah, everyone's.
Yeah.
Everyone's seen it. Excellent.
Yeah. No,
Right.
some people saying no.
There's a couple saying no. Well, I'll do it. If we've got majority yes, I'll do this pretty quick. This, if you can see my back, this is actually printed. I've got a print of this on my wall behind me. If you can see, there it is. So this is a very famous chart by a guy called Charles Minard showing what happened when Napoleon tried to defeat the Russians in 1812 when he marched to Moscow. He started here with 500,000 soldiers. Off he went, heading to Moscow. And the thickness of the line shows us how many able-bodied soldiers he had left. And you can see that by the time he got to Moscow, he'd already dwindled his army from 500 to 100,000 soldiers. So the Russians were scorching the earth. So they're basically destroying all the forest and all the agricultural land on the way. It's a very effective way to starve an army, I mean, it also is a very effective way to starve your civilian population, right? So it's a brutal but effective tactic. In Moscow, there was nobody to fight, so Napoleon had to retreat. So now we've changed color, and the line's getting really, really thin because the temperature shown here at the bottom is extremely cold. Now he's in the depths of winter in the center of Russia. Half the remaining soldiers perished trying to get over the Bradnum River, and he limps back with 10,000 soldiers. So we went from 500,000 soldiers to 10,000 in the biggest military folly of all time. So that's a slightly truncated version, but it takes the best part of 60 seconds to 2 minutes to really explain this chart, and that was a little bit rushed. Now, again, if you've seen me do this talk before, you'll know what's coming. Imagine you are Kutuzov, the leader of the army, chatting to Alexander, the Russian Tsar. And Alexander says, "Hey, well done on Scorched Earth." Mikhail is like, "All right, can we have some vodkas later? Thanks, boss. Let's go and have some vodkas." But then the bombshell comes. It's like, "Well, can you do a summary PowerPoint presentation to the team, please?" Smiley face, calendar icon. Woohoo! And if you've ever had to present data to senior people, you need to know how long you're going to have. They will probably tell you X number of minutes, and then the real time will probably be X divided by 4 because they'll have all talked for too long, and they'll stick you at the end. So you might even have the ignominy of people leaving as you try and convey your important information. If that sounds familiar, I sympathize on behalf of all. Well, not on behalf of anybody. I just sympathise. I try not to represent people who overrun on agendas. One day, by the way, if you want to talk to me after I've had 2 or 3 beers, ask me about my opinion of people who overrun their time in agendas, and I will tell you some fruity anecdotes. But that's out of scope now, and I've now given myself huge pressure to finish on time today. All right, but Kutuzov has been asked, "Mate, give the presentation to the team." So this chart was actually built in 1869 by Charles Minard, but imagine Kutuzov had made this chart as well with his team. He was a data nerd, and he had the data. One of the worst things we can do as chart makers is bring our own ego when we present data. This is an amazing achievement of data visualization. And you might think, I'm going to show these people my beautiful data visualization because I'm amazing. I certainly used to do that as a data analyst. I thought I was the best data analyst ever. And I would show people these really complicated charts. And it took me years to realize they were looking completely nonplussed at my visuals and my dashboards because they were like, "We don't get it, Andy. It's too complicated." You have to be more simple. So in this situation, where he's only got 2 minutes in an agenda that's already probably overrun, he would just go, "I've got really interesting news about the campaign outcome. Basically, we killed and captured 98% of Napoleon's soldiers. If you want to find out more information, come to the Kremlin and we'll give you the maps and more details." With that, thanks very much. I know the world's kind of a crazy place right now. Don't mean to make light of combat or combat deaths, but a lot of people put this chart on a pedestal, and it does make a good example. Anytime you're presenting data, it is okay to make a slow chart that needs time to digest. That's fine. But you've got to think ahead of time. How long are people going to give that chart? How much attention time are they going to give that chart? And try and make it understandable in about half the time they're going to look at it. That's my rule of thumb. All right, so S, the final one is sneakiness. You could be honest, you could be dishonest. I'm sure nobody in this room would intentionally be dishonest because that's bad. Here's my favorite example from the last 18 months. 2 years, actually. The UK Treasury said, "Look at our inflation numbers. Aren't they going down?" Yeah, well, it looks like inflation's going down 25%. But I'm sure you're one step ahead of me. This y-axis is truncated. So it's not 25%. This is the 0 on the axis. It's actually just about 1%. So this is an example of intentional sneakiness from the Treasury. God forbid our government should manipulate statistics, right? This one actually incurred a rap across the knuckles from the Office for Statistics Regulation. And this isn't just the Tories who do this. All the government parties do it. They're all the same. You can be intentionally dishonest, and obviously I hope everybody in this room would not be that person, but you can be accidentally dishonest to you just by not quite thinking about how the data is presented. So here are your levers. And now, as a little break, I want you all to have a chat amongst yourselves. We're going to do 2 exercises to think how you would visualize some data by applying the levers. The second one is a slightly uncomfortable topic, so I'll just pre-warn you on that. But I'm going to show you a use case, or I'm going to describe a use case. And I just want you to think, how would you apply the levers in visualizing the data in this instance? So imagine you have job loss data in March 2020, so month 2 of the pandemic, and you're doing a visualization for the front page of the New York Times. I don't quite know, Charlotte, I don't quite know how your room is configured. Can people talk in pairs for 30 seconds, or is it better for people to just shout out ideas? Tell me, how does the room look?
We could do either, to be honest.
So shout out some ideas. There you go. How would just somebody on chat? How would you do it? Oh, hello, room. I can see a room. Nice. Any ideas? How would we apply levers for a chart like this? Don't be shy. There's no wrong answer.
Play on the emotions.
So you think, why would you do that?
It's a very emotive topic, isn't it? Joblessness. Yeah. At a time when people were scared already. Mm-hmm. So you could either reassure with emotion, or you could scaremonger with emotion.
Yeah. All right. Very good. Any other thoughts?
Did you hear that? Level of detail.
Yeah, Charlotte, you'll have to relay what people are saying.
Darren says the level of detail would need to be quite aggregated.
Yeah. Yeah. Why, actually?
Because it's the front page, so it's got to be a big hitter. People can't spend too much time.
Yeah. I think because it's the front page, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you said? Okay, I'm going to just hold that thought. Because I'm just trying to find something on a different screen, and I'll bring it to, right. Okay. All right. Okay. Well, those two. They're good answers. Let's have a look at what they actually did. So here is the bottom of the New York Times front page on that day, and you can see the chart is there. It's got its boundary, its box. But what was really clever about what they did, it was obviously we had such ludicrous numbers, or unseen numbers. So here's the story. Here's the headline, but it's completely divorced from the chart because they just had that very, very clever idea of putting we're so used to the charts live inside a box, right? They have that box on the page. That's why they live. And this one, the number just pushes out throughout the entire page of the story. So you saw a bit, the Wall Street Journal did something similar. But you're right. I don't know whether this is, in some ways this is dry because it's a bar chart, but just the nature of the bar chart makes it emotional. It's kind of like simultaneously both, right? But very clever. Now, Charlotte, who talked about aggregation there?
Darren did.
Diane. So
Darren.
Dan, sorry. So Dan, I agree, but as a counterpoint to that, when this is the front page of the New York Times on the day that 1 million people had died, 500,000 people had died from COVID, and you can see they did a front page with 500,000 dots on it. For you'll see in a lot of cases people talk about aggregation of data takes away the actual sort of the individual impact. So when you aggregate data about people, sometimes it hides the reality. So the motivation of the team here was, if we disaggregate the data, even though it's on the front page, it actually creates a very different and very strong emotional response. So I think, Dan, you're dead right. But every argument always has a really good counterfactual argument as well. So I think a really good example they had there. Right, now I've lost the chat box. Let's go back. Where are you all? There you are. Right. Okay. All right. So the next one. Well, I'm just going to go ahead, acknowledging that this is a tough topic.
Can you take a question, or do you want them at the end?
I can. Yes. Go ahead.
Colin's got a question.
Hi, Andy. It's Colin.
Hi, Colin.
I just wondered if there are trade-offs between levers. So, is it okay to be sneaky if you want to lever emotion or vice versa?
Oh, that's a great. Is it okay to be sneaky? So, all right. Let me ask you all a question for which I want an honest answer. Does anybody on chat or in the room think that these two examples are sneaky? And if you do, I have no skin in this game. Is this sneaky chart design? Is anybody saying yes in the room there, Charlotte?
No, people are saying no.
Right.
I think it's perhaps a little manipulative. The red one.
Can anybody elaborate on why they think it's manipulative?
It's me that thinks it's a bit manipulative.
Okay. Why is that?
Right.
I think it makes it emotional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's bringing the emotion into it. It wants us to see this blood, this dripping blood.
Yeah. So, all right, that's good. Right, that's good, because I don't think this is sneaky, but I think you use the word manipulative there, Charlotte. I don't think it's a far. I often wonder how far the gap is between red bars pointing down, blue bars pointing up, and a truncated y-axis. I'm like, at some point the boundary there gets a little grey. So in answer to the question, Colin, I think, never be dishonest, right? I think you can bring emotion in some ways and remain honest, but I couldn't tell you where the boundary lies. That's my best answer. Hope that's all right. All right, next one. Right, so you might have seen this. So this isn't an easy topic. I certainly wouldn't do this in a presentation in the US. What if you wanted to add data on the ease or difficulty of access to abortion across 50 US states? What might you do there in the levers?
Are we pro or against?
Say again, Charlotte.
Are we pro-life or pro-woman?
Why is that an important question?
Because if we're pro-life, then that tells a different story. So if we're pro-women's rights, which again it will be a completely different angle that you're going at. So,
yeah. What if you're okay? Any other comments?
I've got the emotive, more emotional.
Yeah.
I think it's like emotion in a way that it shows if more abortion happens, then this is like there is a more red flag. That's how I see it.
Can you relay that one, Charlotte? I couldn't quite hear.
He said that if there's if the higher the abortion rate, the higher the red flags are, depending on sort of your viewpoint.
Yeah. I'll move on. Right. Both of those are fantastic comments. I also think on top of those, it's like, what are you trying to do with the visualization? Are you trying to communicate to people of the same viewpoint as you? Are you trying to persuade other people who don't have the other viewpoint or have the opposite viewpoint? Or are you attempting to stay neutral? I just find this is really, really hard, right? And I do this exercise here because it just creates a sense of discomfort just thinking about this, I think, because you're like, oh my God, this is such a fraught thing. So I'll show you how The Pudding did this. If you're not familiar with The Pudding, they're a marvelous data storytelling news organization. And they did the data through this remarkably novel way by creating a maze for each state in the US. And the complexity of each maze represented the complexity of abortion access in that state. You can actually go and solve these magazines, solve these mazes, so you can play with them, and as you solve them, they sort of reveal different information. So Missouri is one of the most difficult to access abortion states, so that's a really complicated state. Oops. Whereas California has just super easy access to abortion. So you get two very different experiences. And, you can explore this by different personalities in different states as well. And I just think this is a genius application of that, right? It's emotional. In some ways, it's dry. It's granular, but there's an emotion in it without being... without being opinionated, right? And I think that, the other lever that isn't in my levers is O for opinionated, right? Because I don't think this has opinion in it. It's just stating facts. If you know Anya Ahern, she's a Tableau Visionary Hall of Famer. She built an abortion viz about 8-9 years ago in the US, and her sole intent was to make an abortion viz that was void of all opinion. And even though she did it, she removed any opinion out of it. She still got hate from both sides. Like, how dare you do this, whether from pro-lifers and through pro-abortion people. So I just love the way the pudding have done this. I just put it as a really good application of levers. All right. So can AI do this for us? This is the next 15 minutes. I've been thinking about AI since it came out. And I've got 3 little things that I want to explore about whether AI can do it. So, can AI find data stories? We talked about asking and answering lots of different questions. I've created my own custom GPTs. I've uploaded all my content. ChatGPT knows everything about me. And then you upload a simple data set like this to ChatGPT and say, show me charts, right? What's the right chart for this? So I'm like, give me a cumulative sales line chart for PowerPoint. 6 months ago, it created this chart, and this chart is just absolute out and out garbage because it made up data. It's not a cumulative sales chart, and it's not optimized for PowerPoint. But then 6 months ago, they reconfigured their chart engine, and now if you ask the question with the data set, you get a thing like this. It didn't hallucinate apples and bananas. I told it was apples and bananas. But who thinks this is a pretty chart? Who thinks this is a good chart now, right? I suspect you all do. We are, as human beings, we're suckers for things that look nice. Curvy lines, pleasing colors. So this, just by the nature of its appearance, makes me think I can trust ChatGPT 4.0 to do great data analytics. But I'm a diligent data analyst. I went back to my Tableau chart, and I actually know something about the data because I fabricated this data set. Both A and B are increasing in sales month by month through the year. And yeah, if I just copy and pasted this into my report to my boss, my conclusion would be, well, we did well earlier in the year, then we sank a bit, and we've done well at the end of the year. So what had ChatGPT done wrong? It had created the axis 0 to 12, but it had hidden the fact that it had ordered the months of the year alphabetically. So April was the first month, December was third because it's third in the alphabet, and September comes at the end. And it didn't show me that in the chart. And here's one of the challenges I face with AI finding stories for it, is that you've got to do a lot of work and diligence to check that anything it outputs is actually trustable. Eventually, I got it to do the right chart, but it's only because I'm a really diligent data analyst that I spotted that. Many people would. So can AI find data stories? Oh, I don't know. It can, but is it worth the effort? Because it does it quite well, I don't trust it. Can AI tell data stories? This was the second part. This is about levers. So let's go back to Iraq's bloody toll. I gave this data set to Claude, Anthropic. So Anthropic's Claude AI. I actually genuinely think Claude is the best of the LLMs to use for data analysis. ChatGPT is just not very good for data analysis, but Claude is actually really good. I said, make a chart from this data, and it made a line chart. And then this exercise was about me saying, let's explore this together, me and Claude, but I don't want to dictate what you do. I want you to push a story. I want to tell a story about the human tragedy of casualties. So with that prompt, we went here. Suddenly we've got an evocative title, we've got strong summary data, and we've got red. 6 prompts later, Claude's decided to go to a black background. It's added really powerful tooltips, and again, all I'm doing is saying push the story. I'm not telling it what to do. So I think this had the ground shifting under me of whether AI can do data storytelling. I gave it the editorial nudge to put some bars upside down. Maybe it would have got there on its own, but it didn't. That was 8 prompts. So it took me 8 prompts to get here. Claude kind of went off on a little tangent of not really understanding what I was saying. So 23 prompts later, I had this. And I've made, honestly, almost no editorial input to this, right? I've just said, I want a powerful story. And I find this astonishing. As a data analyst using Tableau, I'm going to do, countless iterations, probably more than 38, to get to a chart like this one on the right. But it was coming up with those answers for me. Then I was like, okay, change the story. Tell me, do this. Just tell the story positively. Again, not telling it what to do. And we went to this, right? Suddenly, it's coming up with statistics that are about reduction in power, and I am not telling it what to do. 3 prompts later, when I've created or I've recreated the Iraq bloody toll charts, but with almost no editorial input from myself. And I find this astonishing. I actually subsequently went and told Claude to come up with completely original ideas about how to talk about the human cost of life. And it came up with some brilliant metaphors about memorial walls with candles, where the candles represented data. I was somewhat blown away. And I've been a real cynic about this. So Claude slightly changed my mind. But then the last thing is something that's been on my mind more recently is I actually think with all these Gen AI tools, all of the industry has built the wrong user interface for data analytics. So I'll just finish with a couple of minutes on this. ChatGPT launched 2 years ago. They had an LLM and they're like, hey, let's stick a text box on this and see what the world does. And then it became the fastest growing app in the world ever, right? We were blown away. It emulated a conversation with human. And then the whole world was like, we need to copy this stuff. This is the future, AI. So you see this single threaded chat box interface in just about every LLM implementation you have. And yet that's really weird. Because what are LLMs? They are tireless machines that can create infinite answers. And yet, because ChatGPT put one chat box and one response, the entire tech world has just copied that user model. You see that in Microsoft Copilot, you see it in Tableau Agent. And that is so far away from using the potential of an LLM, and it doesn't represent what data analytics is really like. Data analytics is this squiggly cycle and a dance. It's an exploration of data as you feel, you chase, and you shift perspectives on your way to the right articulation of the data set, which is why this simple data set is so important to me, because with this, we can ask 7 questions, we can get 7 answers. And even in a ChatGPT world, it's like creating a 20-sided dice every time you ask a question, rolling it, and just giving you the one answer for the one that surfaces on top. When you scale this to real dashboards, so here's an internal partner leads dashboard, it's all redacted, but this is a dashboard we use. There are 86 fields in use on this dashboard, and many more fields in the data source that aren't actually surfaced on the dashboard itself. So if you imagine, show me partner leads data for my QBR, what are the chances that dice roll is going to have the right dice side base up? It's going to be like a D100. And yeah, that's how we've implemented AIs. So my challenge I have with ChatGPT interfaces have been created is that instead of building this in Gen AI, we've built this, which is not serving us well at all. And a really powerful potential solution came through one of the most dystopian applications I've ever seen, or certainly seen in the last 12 months. It's called Social AI, and it's available on your iPhone. Basically, it's a social network where you are the only human being, and everybody that follows you is an AI bot. Well, it's like that's it. Is that the zenith of humanity, that we can just talk whatever we want and get followed by bots. However, there is something very clever about this app. Each of your followers is tuned to tell you a different perspective of an answer. So you ask one question and you get multiple responses. And what if we did that with analysis? So tell me about my sales for a salesman. And instead of getting, and then you get multiple answers, right? And what if you could tune the followers so that unlike this, you could tune your followers so you had one bot that aggregates data, one bot that looks to the future, one to the past, one that asks you more questions. That way, you've got an AI tool that is actually supporting the infinite answer machine that an LLM is, with the merry dance of trying to find your answer to data and trying to work out what the question you're trying to ask in the first place is. So there you go. Can AI do it for us? You know what, everybody? Every time I presentation, the answer gets closer to yes. I think we're a massive, massive way from the answer being yes, though. Like huge distance. The power you have as human beings to feel your way to the right articulation of data is incredibly powerful. AI can help us, right? I have felt the ground shift with Claude. I actually think we're going to go through a big bust in AI. I think it's going to follow the path of the dot-com boom and bust from 25 years ago. Super hype, complete disappointment. But then about 5, 6, 7 years later, it's like, oh, actually, it's all working out pretty well. I suspect that's the path we're going to go through in the next 18 months. In the meantime, all I can recommend to you is embrace it, because my kids are growing up AI natives. So the skills they have with AI are going to beat mine within a few months. So the best data storytellers in 12, 18 months' time will be the ones who are using these tools too. But I worry, and I'm going to lead to a really unsatisfying conclusion in a minute. I worry that there is going to be an impact on jobs, and I don't think we've solved what that is going to look like and what we should do. I worry about the future of critical thinking. My daughter's boyfriend was telling me the other day, he's doing A-levels, and he's just like, I'm going to get ChatGPT to do my essays for me, to do my proposals, to do my university applications for me. And I'm like, my God, we've got a generation of kids who are just giving up thinking, right? And that's a tragic. I think that's tragic, and not a good thing for the future. The environment. It's so easy to type anything into a text box, but Microsoft is spinning up new nuclear power stations, right? So there's a huge impact on using Gen AI. So how do I conclude this? This is not a company official perspective. The train is leaving the station if it hasn't already left. Well, you need to go and chase after it. This is certainly looks like it's going to be our future in tech for a while. I feel exhilarated by it, but I feel equally apprehensive about it, about the implications we aren't thinking about, and that we're not regulating fast enough. That is as far as I get as a definitive answer to can AI do data storytelling for us. I will leave you with one plug, two plugs, that if you want to hear the Tableau and Salesforce official perspective, December 18th, we're going to tell you what the official line is. Don't tell any of my bosses what I said today, but you can. And with that, I've got 3 minutes for questions. So thanks very much. Please sign up to my newsletter where I rant on about this kind of stuff once every month or so. And if you can join us on Chart Chat on Thursday, that would be amazing. So there you go. Can data storytelling do AI? Kind of. And it excites and worries me. That's my answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Any questions from the room for Andy? Go on, Colin.
So from what I saw at Data Fam of the future of Tableau, driven by agent force. So I'm a freelancer, and I work with clients, and they'll say, I want my dashboard to do this, I want it to look like that, this is the story we need to tell, and I go away and I do that. And it takes me time, and I have to think about it. Is the future going to be prompting Tableau to do that, or is the future that people will be prompting it themselves and someone like me is redundant, or am I just going to have to pivot the way that I use Tableau through some of the tools you've demonstrated today?
Sorry, what was your name?
Colin.
Tom. Yeah, that's a great question.
Colin.
Sorry?
Colin.
Oh, Colin. Sorry. You asked the question earlier. I think in some ways, Colin, the answer is a little bit of yes to each of those, right? We are working on agents that can create dashboards for you. I think you're going to have to pivot in some way. But I'll ask you back, when a user tells you what they want on a dashboard, Colin, how many times have they actually articulated what they want correctly the first time they asked you the question?
Hardly ever.
Hardly ever, right? And so that goes back to, so essentially when we're asking an AI to build a dashboard, we're creating a dice that has every possible articulation of what they were asking, or what they think they were, or every possible articulation of the answer to what they were asking. The AI rolls a dice and builds one of them, right? So if that's 50 different ways of showing partner leads, a 1 in 50 dice roll. I play a lot of board games and D&D. I don't choose to go open a dungeon door on the roll of a D50, right? So I think it's going to be some time before a truly effective dashboard builder is available. If you look at Copilot, Microsoft Copilot, the dashboard building in Power BI, if you go and dig around YouTube, a lot of those videos are kind of like, it works, but it didn't really work, right? One of the things we're trying to do at Tableau is wonder whether, rather than building a finished exploratory dashboard, we are building a dashboard to surface insights into data, rather so to give those different perspectives. So we might be looking at that. Yeah. So good question, Colin. And I see we're out of time, Charlotte. So I don't know if we want to do more questions or if you want to.
And there's a question in the chat.
Oh, okay. Oh, I haven't got. Is there?
Who's it from, Steve? Sorry, I can't
Paul
see.
My chat didn't update. Oh, that's annoying. Oh, right. Okay. So is this the question from Paul?
Yes.
Right. I wondered lately about advanced Excel formula use I use, relying on everyone receiving my. Can AI envisage will have the same thoughts? No, we've got right. Does AI have awareness of software prior to? So of course. Well, I mean, it has existence in its LLM. It's probably been trained on a lot of the documentation from old Excel. But if you think for an AI to work on existing legacy software, you're using an LLM, but then you have to build a pipeline into all the possible parts of the code you anticipate that LLM will talk to. This is the disadvantage that Tableau has, that Excel has, because we're using LLM technology to interface into existing code. I have a feeling the new startups, they don't have that. They can have an LLM and they can bolt new things onto it above the LLM. So, Paul, I think that's a real valid concern. As to version control. I mean, version control is a problem for everything. It's going to be the same for AI. Good question.
Well, thank you, Andy, for your time, for joining us today. I hope everyone found that really interesting. I'm sure if you want to reach out to Andy on LinkedIn, you'll see he posts a lot on this, and again on his newsletter, he posts talking a lot about AI recently because it's the big thing. And don't forget Chart Chat on Thursday. I go to Chart Chat regularly. I love it. It's one of the best things that I watch.
Thank you very much. And there you go. I'm 2 minutes over. I just literally broke my own rule. So hand over to Claude quickly. I can stick around for about another 30 minutes. Thanks, everybody.
Cool. Thank you, Andy. Next, we're going to invite Klaus to join us to have a chat with us. Professor Dr. Klaus Schulte is a Hall of Fame Tableau visionary and winner of IronViz Europe in 2018. He's a professor at Münster School of Business in Germany, and he teaches data visualization and Tableau to his accounting students in MSB's bachelor and master's programs. He helps clients with implementing data-driven management and accounting at CO Data. And in the Tableau community, Klaus is known for co-leading the Tableau Newbies user group. And he's here today to show us his KPI Viz extension. So I will hand over to Klaus.
Thank you, Charlotte. Welcome, everyone. Somehow my camera is not working. You can't see me, right?
No. Okay, we can hear you fine, but we can't see you.
Okay, so let me try to start it again. So I only see a black screen. Not sure why this is the case, but I fear I can't fix it now, or I would have to leave and come back if that is an option. You want to give me?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe let's try one more time, and then I'll be back. Just a second.
You don't have like a little slider over your camera, or is he gone?
I think he's leaving it on there. There's a strange play button, wasn't there, on this camera? I'm not seeing that.
To keep an eye when he comes back. So how many of you guys do KPIs for most of your lives? We work for the NHS or for healthcare, so of course we've got KPIs. And at our last session, we had Andy showing us different KPI designs. And this time we've got Klaus showing us how we can perhaps do it a bit easier. And he's back.
Yeah, I'm back, but I fear my camera is still not working. Don't know why. So sorry.
Have you got a little camera slider on? Like if
No, that would be an easy fix, but I don't have.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, thank you, Charlotte. Thank you, Steve, for having me. And Charlotte, I think I've heard that you've already introduced it to the topic of KPIs. And what I'm going to share today is, so after Andy's inspirational session, it's more like a hands-on session. I think I will hand out the workbook afterwards. Maybe I will guide you through what we've built, what I've built together with InfoTopics Apps for Tableau, which is an extension to easily create KPI cards. And maybe we can also have a discussion afterwards where we talk about potential use cases in the healthcare industry. Because full disclosure, I'm not an healthcare expert, but I think KPIs is a general topic that applies to all industries. So I'm sure this also applies to the healthcare industry. Okay, good. I'm sharing my screen now.
I'm not seeing it yet.
Yeah, wait a second.
Yep.
Okay, and I'm starting my timer to not run over time. Yeah, so KPIs is the topic. And so recently I've started developing extensions, but deep in my heart, I'm a Tableau developer. So I've been doing this for quite a while already. I started using Tableau in 2016. Yeah, and my professional background is in management accounting, controlling. That means KPIs have always been important to me and also to my audiences. And so I assume you've all created KPI cards already. And when you do that in Tableau, this is quite an effort to do. Because when you want to have a KPI card with the different elements like big numbers, trend charts, comparison values, little icons, for example, this usually requires a lot of different objects you have to put together. And then if you want to show different KPIs, that even multiplies a lot. And then it's still static. So if new KPIs come in, you need to touch the dashboard again. And yeah, Merlin Boyd and I, so Merlin is also a visionary from Apps for Tableau. We thought about creating something that makes life of developers easier and to take away the pain for when creating KPI cards like this. Yeah, and the result was or is PowerKPIs, and this is what I'm going to show you today. By the way, InfoTopics Apps for Tableau is a company based in the Netherlands, and recently we've also opened a office in London. So if you ever feel the need to talk about things like this in depth, feel free to reach out to us, and then we're happy to talk. Yeah, what is PowerKPIs? PowerKPIs, yeah, like I said, creates KPI cards in a very efficient and neat way. And it's available as a Viz extension and as a dashboard extension. So Viz extensions, for Viz extensions, you need Tableau version 2024.2 and younger. Dashboard extensions are on the market since, I think, 2018 point something, so already for quite a while. But Viz extensions have really been a game changer for the extension market, because they bring extensions to the sheet level, and I will show to you what that exactly means. Yeah, Power KPIs can be used like any other visual in Tableau. So in this use case, I've created a fairly simple dashboard, and this object here on top, that is Power KPIs. And you see I'm looking at customer segments, at the profit ratio, and then I have other sheets on my dashboard looking at state level and ship mode level. And like you know from other visuals, you can easily click on elements and this way also update the cards. You could also set the cards as filter and update the other sheets. Yeah, KPI cards that support dashboards by aggregating certain measures and break them down to certain dimensions. Yeah, you can easily configure the KPI cards. Like in this case, I have a top row of KPIs, or there could also be a first column with KPIs. So if I would arrange the KPI cards vertically and not horizontally. Yeah, so that would be one use case. Second use case, and that's also doable with Power KPIs, is a KPI tree. And this is really something close to my heart, because I see these KPI trees in controlling a lot, because they are able to give more meaning to a KPI, because a single KPI very often doesn't tell the whole story. There are, for example, top level KPIs, but then KPIs on lower levels that have impact on the top level KPI. Yeah, like the operational drivers, like for example, in my example here, sales representatives, leads per representative on the total sales. Yeah, and with our KPI tree, you can navigate this hierarchy of different KPIs and open and close the different elements, and this way navigate this KPI hierarchy. Yeah, and just imagine doing this natively in Tableau. So that would somehow be possible, and I also did that. But I wouldn't recommend to do that, because that's quite a hack, and Tableau was just not built to create something like this. But here we can use the full power of the web. So this is JavaScript, D3, the D3 framework, and this is just a breath to work with. Yeah, so that's also Power KPIs. Build a hierarchy of KPIs and show how certain KPIs impact other KPIs. Yeah, and if you then think one step further, you can you can use this for scenario planning or what if scenarios. Yeah. So in my use case, this is a target setting scenario. We are at the end of 2024, so people think about 2025 already, and maybe there has already been some top-down planning. And in my use case, there is a goal for total sales in 2025 of 3 million. And the current plan is somewhere below. And now the task of the team, maybe thinking of this and working on this, is to come up with a scenario that would allow us to actually reach this goal. Yeah, and what I've done here is I took the source KPIs on the lowest level. So these, the 6 on the right side, plus the sales representatives and the leads per representative, and I've put a parameter on this. Yeah, so this way we can sit together with all the experts from the domain and talk about potential scenarios that might lead to that goal. And what I, for example, could do is to say, okay, we might need an additional sales representative. Yeah, so I would put that parameter one step up. So we would have 19, and I could show the impact in my KPI driver tree. I've also added a waterfall chart here to break down the growth contribution by driver. Yeah, and then we would start discussing this further and come up with more. This one goes up, a few will go down, and yeah, like this, create a nice looking scenario. And I'm not sure, so I'm still not at the target. Somehow my mouse is, my computer is having a hard time today. Yeah, so let's increase this a little bit more, and we get to the target. Yeah, so have a visualization like this KPI tree showing the correlation between the different KPIs and how they're impacting each other, and come up with a scenario to reach that goal from the top-down plan. Yeah, then very often there are maybe several layers of analysis. So here I have again a KPI tree that is showing my operational profit and how it's been impacted by different financial and also operational drivers. So the logic is if the net promoter score goes up or goes down, that will sometime also have an impact on the operational profit. Yeah, and additional layers of analysis could now be on a tooltip, for example. So since this is a Viz extension, we can use native Tableau tooltips. And in this case, I've broken down my COGS by countries, and I see the contributing countries and what their share on the total COGS actually is. Yeah, you could also have several sheets on the dashboard, like in my first example, where you then can just use dashboard actions like filter actions or parameter actions also to add this additional layer of analysis. Yeah, and the fourth use case is just a KPI dashboard. So I've created lots of them in the past where people just want to have their most important KPIs at a glance, or like in this case, I'm drilling into profit ratio by different subcategories. And yeah, this is also something we can easily create with this extension. You can then filter by region or whatever. Or imagine, this is now Superstore data, or imagine we would have different people logging into that dashboard, having different permissions to see KPIs, for example. And since this is fully dynamic, you can filter out and filter in different KPIs, and this way keep this flexible, yeah, and again, fully dynamic. This is how we can use PowerKPIs. And the next thing I'm going to share with you is how to set this up. And if you have never used a Viz extension, I'm also showing these first steps you need to take. When you're on 2024.2 or later, you get this new button, Add Extension, when you open the Marks type dropdown. And when you click Add Extension, you will be prompted to the Tableau Exchange, where you'll see this extension that you can add to your view. Yeah? And there will be PowerKPIs somewhere. And if you open that one, you get, you first have to enable the extension because this is a required action. So let's hit OK. And the extension will load. Maybe the most obvious thing that is different with Viz extensions is that you get custom marks card. So as developers, we are able to define the marks cards to our needs, and this way also help people to easily use them and to get to the result quite quickly. So for PowerKPIs, we need measure names, measure values, we need a date, and we can also add several dimensions. And this is what I'm going to show you now. I've already filtered down to a couple of measures. So I want to look at profit ratio, and sales. And all I have to do is to drag measure names to measure names, measure values to measure values, and order date to order date. And I will already get my first KPI cards. Yeah, and in this case, since I filtered down to these three measures, you see I get one card for profit, one card for profit ratio, and one card for sales. It's using the date part that is selected here. Maybe for reporting, I want to change this to a month, and I'm getting the month that I want to use here. Then there are lots of options to configure the cards. I'm maybe looking into a few now. So profit ratio 0.1 should be a percentage. We can define this in the metrics. So for each metric, there's a ribbon where you have different metric attributes that can be set quite easily. So we want the number format to be a percentage. We can have different chart types. I will stick with the bullet chart for now. We can add links to other dashboards when we, for example, already have a dedicated solution for analyzing profit ratio. You could add this. Maybe let's do that as well. So my solution sits at google.com. So you would all, of course, add a link to the dashboard. And then save and close. And in this case, you see we get the percentage here and the link over there that would lead us to google.com in this case. So this way we can easily build KPI cards for different measures. Then we also have the dimensions marks card. So what I could do is to drag segment to dimension. And you see the view is similar but different. We're now looking at sales. So it took one of the measures and it broke it down to the different customer segments. So we have consumer, corporate, and home office. We could also use measure names as a filter. Let's do that maybe. Like this, we could, for example, also look into profit. Make it very, very easy for users to switch between different KPIs and look into what's of most interest for them. Yeah, so this is the general setup. Having these custom marks cards, and that is the same for all Viz extensions. In our use case, so for PowerKPIs, we have measure names, measure values, the date and dimension. Yeah, and just create these cards by dragging and dropping fields to these custom marks cards. Good. This is how you set up a KPI grid. And this is where I'm connecting also here in my second demo. I've also created a grid of KPIs here. So lots of different KPIs. You see basket size, COGS, conversion rate, customer visits, and stuff like that. And in my use case now, I want to build a KPI tree. And therefore, there is a parent metric in my data source. Yeah? So we have a metric, and for each metric, there's also a parent metric. And this combination of metric and parent metric defines the tree layout that we want to create. So let's drag also parent metric to dimension. And this will do nothing for now, but in the next step, we can enter the configuration and yeah, set it to the required elements. So we are changing from grid layout to tree layout. And we have different options I will guide you through, but the first one is now the one we want to use. So we have metric and a parent metric on dimensions already, and this defines the tree. So we can select this one. Then we have metric holding our KPIs. Parent metric is the parent KPI. And we've stored different scenarios in a scenario field. And this is our budget value. And we have a actual value. And the budget should be the compare value. And the actual value should be my main value. Yeah. Like this, we can define the different elements of our tree, then hit save, and we have rearranged everything into a tree, and we can easily expand and collapse the hierarchy of the KPIs, or even jump back to the grid layout if we want to toggle between the two different layouts. Yeah. Very easily doable, and it even does not require big kind of data preparation. If you don't have this parent metric in your source field, this could even be a calculated field where you do a case statement for your metric, and then define the parent for each metric. Yeah, this is the tree layout. In this case, defined from a predefined tree. Then, second tree version. So let's also use the extension here. And what I want to do now is I want to create a tree from different measures. Yeah. In the previous case, I had metrics and then a dimension that defines the parent of each metric. In this way defines the tree. But now I have measures, price, profit, profit ratio, quantity, and sales. And I want to arrange these measures in a hierarchy to show how different KPIs impact the others. Yeah, and therefore, again, simple like this, drag on measure names, drag on measure values, and drag on a date. We can keep it to years. And then we have to go back to the configuration where we want to do a tree. And in this case, build our own tree. Yeah? And in this configuration, we can now say profit ratio should be our main node. Profit should go below profit ratio, and sales should go below profit ratio, and quantity and sales are below, quantity and price are below sales. And like this, yeah, we already get this tiny little KPI tree where we see price and quantity resulting in sales, and profit and sales resulting in profit ratio. We could then do again some styling. Let's say profit ratio, a percentage again, and profit should be a currency maybe, and sales could be a currency. Easily doable to define these attributes. We can also do lots of styling, where, for example, different layouts you can pick from. So this is the default layout, but we also have other layouts like this, for example. Let's take that one, where we have rearranged the different elements, the big numbers, the comparison values, and the trend chart to have a different layout. Good. That is the build your own tree example. And the fourth demo is the decomposition tree. So quite different setup and use case. So we're looking at sales at this point, there is a actual sales and a budget. So we're comparing to targets. And we've already broken down the sales to customer segments. And in a decomposition tree, you show the impact or the share of these elements on the total value. Consumer has like 60% of total sales, corporate 24.4, and home office 60.2. And what you might want to do is to drill deeper into this analysis, and maybe ship mode is of interest for you. Then you can easily add that to dimension and drill down further, in this case, from corporate into the different ship modes. And you see, for example, second class is 4.8% of total and 19.7% of the corporate sales. Maybe these are the use cases. Create grids of KPIs to create KPI dashboards, for example, or supporting KPI cards on a dashboard, or trees from hierarchies defined in the data, from measures, or a decomposition tree where you drill into one specific measure. Then we have lots of different formatting options already. Maybe let's look into the coloring. I've chosen red-green, which is, of course, a big no-no. So let's change the colors maybe to blue and red. And the neutral one could also be a light gray, for example. And maybe you want to put more emphasis on the color. You could border the entire card, for example, and this way get a completely different layout. In this case, seeing that first class and same day for corporates are below target, and everything else is looking quite good. Maybe we can do a first round of questions. Steve, Charlotte, are there any questions?
There's a couple in the chat, Klaus. One from Paul and one from Carl.
So Paul, do you ever get the problem where what you see in Tableau Desktop is not what you get on Tableau Cloud? We often have to edit dashboards after publishing to the cloud as sizing changes. I think this refers to formatting, right? So I've never experienced that numbers changed, for example, after publishing. I saw that problem, but I can't honestly say why this is the case. In my opinion, it has always to do with tiled and and floating. So when I use tiled, I don't get these issues. I can't say much about it. Is anyone else be able to add to that?
No, I think
No?
nobody in the room.
I think the question is specific to this extension now, right?
No, I also think it's not specific to the extension. It's a general question. Okay, then Carl, do the KPI trees grids work when they are the Vision tooltip? Oh, that's a good one. I can see this working well when you want to see a KPI on the dashboard, but on hover, better have the KPI being decompositioned, but on hover to save room on the dashboard. Okay, so you want to put a extension into a Vision tooltip. Let's try it. We've created this one where we have our KPI tree. I'm honestly not sure if that is possible, but what we could do is now create a simple view, maybe with segment and sales, and let's add the demo 3. No, it's not possible. Yeah, so they are not listed here. That's why I think you cannot add Viz extensions to a tooltip. Yeah, good question, Carl.
Any questions in the room? There's no questions in the room.
Okay, good. But maybe feedback. So since you are the healthcare experts, we've done projects together with hospitals from the US, and I know that KPIs were at least a big topic for them, and especially also the struggle to get to the data, especially in big organizations, and having these diverse people in a hospital. Maybe some thoughts about how this could be useful for your organizations. For example, do you work with this kind of KPI trees? Is that a thing in hospitals or in the healthcare industry?
I've personally never used trees like that, but it's really interesting and something that I think I'd like to explore.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of nods in the room.
Okay, good. Yeah, it's hard to see, but okay, good. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, then I have 2 more demos. First one is this. So we are continuing to develop this product, oh, I just see that remark by Dilesh needs to be sandboxed. Yeah, you can run these extensions in your own infrastructure. So when you want to use, you can use the Tableau extension, but if you want to use other extensions like the info topics extensions, you can also run them in your own environment. So that is also possible. Maybe one preview what we are working on at the moment. So I've again taken my 12 metrics from my example from earlier, and yeah, the formatting is kind of easily doable with this kind of setup. You have to define all the attributes for each metric. But now think of that you don't have 12 metrics, but 80 or 150 metrics. So that is quite a challenge to set everything up. And if you have set up everything in a very structured way, you might have also metadata for your metrics. What does that mean? That means that you have, for example, defined the number format for each of your metric. That basket size is a decimal, COGS is a currency, conversion is a %, and that you've also defined the number of decimals. Now you want to see basket size with 2 decimals, COGS with 1 decimal, and so on and so forth. And you can have all the external links to other dashboards. You could have something like a tolerable variance you want to define for each of your metrics, or even the chart type you want to use for the specific metric on the KPI card. Yeah. So this metadata is here available, and you can just add this metadata to the view. I'm dragging it to detail, and then define the metric formats based on metadata. Yeah, and then you get all the metric attributes like the steer type, which is the metric steer logic in my metadata. We have set the tolerance, which would be the tolerable variance. Number format, I think is number format. I have a field for auto precision. I have a field for decimals. I have a currency symbol. I think I don't have prefix and suffix, but I have a chart type and an external link. Yeah, and when I now hit save, we get all the attributes from the metadata applied to our KPI cards. You see different currencies like the pound symbol here, dollar over there, and maybe even euro somewhere. We have percentages, we have different number of decimals, we have different chart types. So all of this can be controlled and organized in the metadata. And this makes it really fully dynamic. And you basically never need to touch this again because you can control everything from your data and based on your data. Yeah, so data-based formatting if you want. Yeah. Yeah, so maybe this one, and then I have another one. Again, this driver-based planning logic. In my previous example, I've worked with parameters, where I've put a parameter on every source KPI and then just changed the parameter and saw the impact on the top level KPI. You can also combine that with a write back table. And this is what I've done here. So here on the right side, this is also an extension from us where we have a nice table extension that has all kind of features a default Tableau table wouldn't have. But in this case, it's also capable of writing back to a database. And this is where I need to log in first. Yeah, now I'm connected to my database. And what I'm able to do now is to just edit the values in the table. Yeah, I can edit my deal size, my rate of new customers. Let's put that to 60. Let's put this to 12,000, like that. And by hitting refresh, this will be stored in the database. We then do a data source refresh. I hope it didn't fall asleep. No, it didn't. And you see the immediate impact on your driver tree in this case. So we have some positive impact changes and some negative impact changes, and we're still far away from the goal of the 4.55 million. Yeah. Writing back to a database enables you to use this data also in other applications. Different from a parameter that only lives in a Tableau workbook, you can do cool things with this also in other solutions and in other applications wherever you need it. Okay, good. This was my demo, and I'm happy to take your questions.
Thank you, Klaus, very much. Are there any questions in the chat or from the room? Go on, Klaus.
Hi, Klaus. My name's Colin. Really good.
Hi, Colin.
Hi, thank you very much. In terms of the positioning of the KPI cards, how would you control that? So if you want to swap them around, maybe not tree out, but in a...
So for the grids, you're able to control that through the configuration. I've said so by default it has 4 columns. If I would set this to 1 column, yeah, you would get something like that. Or if we had something with 4 elements, then maybe a 2x2 would also be something you want to see, and then you would get something like this. Yeah. This is for the grid and for the tree. I mean the placement on the different levels of the tree is defined by the tree logic here in metric and parent metric, but within each level we have these action buttons to sort. Yeah, for example, this is now sorting alphabetically in descending order, in ascending order, or you can also sort by value, ascending, descending. Yeah, and for the numerical sorting, there are even more options to sort by metric name, or for example by the difference to the compare value. Now let's try that one. Oops. So in this case, it will put the one with the lowest variance, with the highest with the lowest one on top, and then sort in that order. Yeah. So lots of different options to configure this.
Thank you.
Any more questions for Klaus before we go into our break?
I just wanted to, based on the previous question, so can the layout be from top to down instead from left to right?
Did you hear that?
Yeah, Dilesh also asked that. Or is that you, Dilesh?
No, he said can go from top to bottom instead of left to right?
Yeah, no, that's not possible at the moment. But in general, that's also possible, yeah. But it's not part of the product yet.
Klaus, can we just confirm one thing? All the configurations on the canvas you've been doing will be available to the end user as well?
No. So what is available to the end user is are these action buttons, but this will go for a viewer. Yeah. So in viewing mode, this will not be available.
Okay. Thank you.
Any more questions?
Yeah, there is one question from Dilesh. Is it possible to get it hosted ourselves due to sensitivity of our data? Yes, absolutely. I've used now the free version from the exchange. In that case, I would recommend to sign up for a trial at appsfortableau.com. And then you are able to start a local server where you host the extension, and then you can just run it in your own infrastructure without any connection to the outside. And we are also happy to help you with setting this up, of course.
Okay, no problem.
And Klaus, last question: how are you going to distribute that sample workbook?
Yeah, good question. I thought you tell me how.
Yeah,
you send it to us, and we'll email it out then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will send it to you, and yeah, you see, I've also added this little step-by-step explanations in the demos. If you grab the workbook, you should be easily able to go through it, and you should also come to the same result.
Thank you, Klaus. So we are now headed into a break for 15 minutes. So you can go and get some refreshments, have a comfort break, come back to us at, I just have a look now. Come back to us at 15:50, where we'll hear about Dilesh's Iron Viz entry. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for having me, Charlotte and Steve.
Thanks,
Klaus.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Okay, share this one. So just bear with me, right? So basically, yeah. So I'm the Tableau and Data Viz manager at NHS Greater Manchester. So I lead on the management of the NHS Greater Manchester Tableau server. So we have 4,500 users, 12 sites for various organisations in Greater Manchester. Our main site has over 500 data sources, primarily held in Snowflake. So I'm neurodivergent, and for this means I'm quite passionate about dashboard design, functionality. I also benefit from thinking of creative solutions and also noticing details others might miss, like the wrong shade of blue on the dashboard or an icon that looks out of place. To give you some context to some of the work I've done, this is our intelligence hub, which is a single front door for organizations across Greater Manchester. And it's essentially a website with a content management system behind it, where we have around 500 dashboards that can be accessed, which are embedded within this portal. We have various other content and file types, such as meeting videos and PDFs and such like that. So other stuff I've been doing is about standards. So, for example, create this dashboard so people understand what the organizational colors are to use for their dashboards. To ensure there's a standardized look and feel of all our dashboards on the hub with our branding. So we have various templates as well. So I produce several templates, and we ensure that every dashboard that goes onto our intelligence hub has the same look, similar to this. So in the process of signing off any new dashboards, we check. This is one included in our checklist. Other things that I also create administrative type dashboards for our data services teams. So, for example, this is like a product catalog, which is a comprehensive overview of all our products on the Intelligence Hub and Tableau, and highlights issues such as missing tags, descriptions, and we can give owners a nudge to make it easier to find their content if they fill stuff in. Also about usage stats. So people can see over the last 12 months the number of visits made to a dashboard or the number of unique users viewed to see stuff. And this one's about stale content. So if you've an admin, you'll see a similar one for Tableau. So this is basically to be used to identify and review content as been accessed within the specified time period. So there you go. Right. So talking about Tableau Iron Viz, which is what I'm talking about now. So this is so I can demo my Iron Viz submission, which celebrates one of my favorite shows, the IT Crowd. So I thought better than talk about what Iron Viz is. It's a high stakes data visualization competition that showcases the incredible power and creativity of Tableau. Rather than me rambling on, I'll just try and play this video now. Share, stop sharing. Now to share with audio, share to share. Share Tableau, share. Right, hopefully this will play now. You can hear the audio.
Hi everyone, I'm Larissa Amoroso, Head of Tableau Community at Salesforce. And this is DataFam Explained, a series where we will teach you all about the Tableau community, also known as the DataFam, a group of data enthusiasts within the Salesforce ecosystem. Today, I'm here to talk about the world's largest data visualization competition. That's right, I'm talking about Iron Viz. Iron Viz started as a Tableau conference breakout session in 2011 with just 300 people in attendance. And now it is a highly anticipated annual event at Tableau Conference. We're talking thousands of data fans cheering on 3 Vizzers as they race the clock to build a Tableau dashboard in 20 minutes or less using the same data set. It is truly the ultimate data showdown. These 3 finalists are selected from a global qualifier competition with hundreds of entries. Here's how it works. Each qualifier is centered around a theme, like games, love, or music. And if you enter, you are required to source your own data. Visualizations submitted during the qualifier round are judged by an impressive group of community leaders who score the Vizzes based on 3 criteria: design, analysis, and storytelling. The 3 top scoring visualizations move on to the championship, which takes place live on stage at Tableau Conference. The championship data sets have covered a range of topics from weather to education to food-focused themes. And let me tell you, the data sets are complex and each finalist ends up with their own unique story and analysis. Luckily, the finalists have a trusted supervisor to give them advice, feedback, and support every step of the way. The visualizations are judged by a world-class panel on the same 3 criteria mentioned earlier: design, analysis, and storytelling. And what's at stake, you may ask? Anyone who enters Iron Viz gets the chance to build their Tableau public portfolio, learn something new, get inspired, and take their data skills to the next level. It's a win-win if you ask me. The 3 contenders that make it to the Iron Viz finals earn the bragging rights that come with qualifying for the world's largest data visualization competition. No big deal. They also compete for hefty cash prizes and the opportunity to donate to a nonprofit of their choice. It's truly something you have to witness to understand. But you're in luck. Check out previous competitions all on our YouTube channel. You can also join the conversation on social media using the hashtag IronViz. That's it from me. We'll see you at the next Iron Viz.
This is the right juggle, isn't it? Right. So I'll go to that. Yeah, so it's like the Super Bowl of data, where talented individuals battle it out to create the most compelling and insightful visualizations. So this year, nearly 200 people submitted entertainment-themed vizzes, and entries are showcased on TV trends, sea chances, the rise of VTubers, video games, and the list goes on. So I was sharing it. So this is my viz. So I'll put it full screen. So I originally started creating my Iron Viz submission for the Data Plus TV Challenge, which came out a few months ago. So this is where they provided a data set from IMDb around all TV shows. And I've actually done quite a few for the Data Plus Movies Challenge as well. So I've done like a Jaws quadrilogy, and a Back to the Future trilogy as well. It's quite fun. So if you want to see how many people died in Jaws, have a look at that viz, please. Right, so let's start. So basically, you start off. So this is my tribute to the IT crowd. It's one of my favorite TV shows, and this dashboard blends retro gaming aesthetics with episode ratings, character profiles, and fun nods to the show, all in an attempt at capturing the quirky humor and characters that made the series a cult classic. So first off, you start with a pop-up box, which this explains the dashboard and how to interact with it in a typical Windows 2000 message box. And watch it stop working. Oh, no. Right. So first of all, you have the monitor, and on it you have every episode and every season highlighted in terms of their rating. And hovering on each one brings up additional details for the episode. And you got Raynham Industries. So Raynham Industries is the company where the IT crowd is based, and you can see what was on each floor in the TV show. So you can see, so in the basement is the IT department where they're based, and then top shelf, legal department stuff. So then you got the characters. So on here, these are the 5 main characters of the show, and you can click on each one to view their personnel file and view stuff about facts about them, famous quotes and stuff. So you got different ones. And the next bit is about the internet box. So this is one of the most memorable jokes of the series. And in season 3 episode titled The Speech, Jen, the head of IT, has been declared Employee of the Month and has been asked to give a speech in front of the entire company. So Moss and Roy play a prank on her to expose her ignorance about the internet by giving her this black box with a blinking red light on top, claiming it is the internet for the whole world. So I'll try and just share this tab. So in there, there's a link to one of the videos. So I'm going to just try and share this audio, share for the first minute of it.
What is it?
This, Jen, is the internet.
What?
That's right.
This is the internet. The whole internet.
Yep. They asked for a loan of it so that you could use it in your speech.
It's so small.
That's one of the surprising things about it.
Hang on. It doesn't have any wires or anything.
It's wireless.
Oh, yes, everything's wireless nowadays, isn't it? So I can really use it in my speech. What if someone needs it?
Oh, no. People will still be able to go online and everything. It'll still work.
Oh, good.
I tell you, you present this to the shareholders and you will get quite a response.
Right, there you go. You can watch the rest on. So right, this is. Right. So here you go. Got links to the 4 seasons, and the first 2 seasons are actually on that YouTube channel. If you don't have Netflix, I think it's on Netflix as well. Right, back to that. The next bit is the bee swarm. So this is from the actor and actress's perspective, which shows everyone who's ever appeared on the show as either a floppy disk or the main character, along with their role in the series and which and how many episodes they have appeared in by the size of the icon. The bee swarm was created using a tool by Lad Dataviz. I'll just show you that. So he's got several tools, and one is about a bee swarm, so you can create stuff. So basically, I created, I prepared a data set, and then you can play about with it and get like the actors and stuff and sort it out by actors. And then you can export this, and it's like all long and lats, and then I use that within my viz. Yeah, so there you go. So I managed to get in contact with a 2021 IronViz winner, Lisa Trescott, who helped me with getting my viz into a format suitable for the IronViz submission, including removal of like copyright material, improved labeling, and creating a more informative story for the show. So there's about 200, like I said, 225 IronViz entries, and I've sent links at the end and the chats. 191, and there's quite a few varied ones in there, so I might want to let it go. There's mine over there. Yeah, so all centered around the theme of entertainment. As you're able to see, participants visualized various data sets, ranging from movie trends to gaming analytics, reflecting diverse storytelling and design styles. The competition highlights the global community's talent, Tableau's community's talent, with entries designed to inspire and push the boundaries of data visualization. It's a fantastic opportunity to learn new techniques, appreciate innovative designs, and connect with the Tableau community. They are going to announce the winners on 14th of January and see who makes the top 10 and then compete live on stage. The top 3 will be able to compete live on stage at a conference. So this is just come out recently, I visited today, which shows all the IronViz entries. And there's me at the bottom there with 1 entry. And there you go, that's it. Thank you very much. As you can tell, it's my first, I don't do many presentations.
No, thank you, Dilesh. No, that was really good. Thank you. Yeah, when Dilesh sent me his IronViz entry, I just knew I had to sneak him in onto this agenda so that he could show us all it and celebrate. You know, he's works for the NHS, which is fantastic. You know, an NHS IronViz entry is brilliant. Any IronViz entry is brilliant. And yeah, just I guess to show us how we can have fun with Tableau. It's not all about work. We can pop open Tableau and explore some of our favourite things. And Dilesh does that. He's got a wonderful whiskey map as well, if you're into whiskey.
Yeah, I worked with a distillery and did a whiskey map for all the whiskey distilleries in England, because you know about Scotland's and Ireland's and stuff, but you don't know anything much about England's one, and there's quite a lot. So I helped them do that. It's quite good if you look at my profile.
So yes, I encourage you to have fun with Tableau if you want to. So thank you, Dilesh, for sharing that with us. And please do go and explore Dilesh's entry. We'll put the links in the chat, and we'll put the links to all the other IronViz entries so you can have a little explore of those to see what's possible and how we can have fun. So what I'm going to do now is just make Rowan a presenter. And then you should be able to share the screen, Rowan.
Great. Can you hear me? Brilliant. Oh, I really love that, Dilesh. That was really cool. That's really great work. I'm a big fan of the IT crowd, and it's nice to see some, some different Viz extensions, but still, still with that insight in there and that story. It's really great. Let me click my correct buttons. Here we go. Okay, that looks like it's coming up. Yep. So, great. So thanks, Charlotte. Thanks all. So apologies for not having my camera on. I'm a bit under the weather today. I had my daughter come home from school with a bug yesterday, and she's home still today, but she's managed to pass it on to me. So I'm a bit worse for wear, but well enough to be doing this. So it won't be mostly me that we hear from today. We're going to just talk you through Tableau Pulse and how that's being used in a few different places in the public sector. We've got David Goswell who's on, and he's going to be talking about how they're using it at Arden and Gem. And then hopefully at some point John Hawkins will be on as well, and just talk us through some of the next steps for for what's on the roadmap and so on. My name is Rowan Bradnum. So I'm a public sector lead here at Interworks, a data consultancy company, and we get to work with loads of people across.
Rowan, sorry, can you just wait a couple of minutes because our TV's gone off in Manchester. We're just going to try and fix that.
Sure, that's okay. I can hit pause.
Thank you.
I can see David's on. Is John? Are you on? John here somewhere. I'll just ping him.
Thank you. Sorry about that, Rowan. We're back.
That's okay. Great. So should I just carry on?
Yes.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay, brilliant. Yeah. So I was just saying a bit about my background. So I used to be a math teacher. Feels like a lifetime ago. It's not that long ago. And now work just for Interworks as a data consultant and public sector lead here. So we get to work with lots of different companies across the NHS, and Tableau has definitely been our bread and butter within that. And we've also had the privilege of working with a few organizations that are midway through Tableau cloud migrations or have kind of completed some of that already and are starting to play with Tableau Pulse, which, as we know, is you need to be in Tableau Cloud. So within the healthcare, there's not a lot of companies yet and within the NHS that have made that journey, but a lot of them with that on the roadmap and wanted to see that. So rather than really talk in depth about what Tableau Pulse does and what the cool features are, we thought we would talk to you a little bit about how we can really use it, how we can think about the future, and how we can get ready for Tableau Pulse coming, and for just this idea of going beyond dashboards in public sector areas, because it's a little bit different for us as it is compared to other sorts of organizations. So just a few points here. I'll blitz through these slides quite quickly and then be handing over to David. So just the things we already know and think about. We're probably thinking about a lot of these things with ChatGPT and AI and the likes anyway, but just how important it is to make decisions quickly, have those notifications happen in real time. But another interesting one as well is the kind of the democratizing that comes to this kind of analytics. So with Tableau Pulse being able to present metrics, essentially it's kind of the old Tableau metrics, but it presents it in a really different UI for which we'll get to see when David demos a little bit. And the preparation and kind of front end presentation of that and choosing is a lot lower data literacy. So it means that rather than needing people who are really familiar with how to use Tableau and experts like Dilesh to build out the dashboards, you can have other people come in to create the pulses for people to take a look at. So that allows the data domain experts, the people who really understand the data, kind of on the coalface, doing the work, able to come in and prepare and present those. Easy to understand, proactive monitoring with easy insights, and yeah, just freeing up time to solve issues rather than to search through the data itself, and just integrations and things as well. So lots of benefits that come through with that. So Tableau Pulse is a couple of little screenshots for you, the kind of idea, but I'm not going to spend too long here because I think we'll see something much more specific when David goes into this. And it's just really about creating those. It's a different experience when going through dashboards, and it's just creating those alerts, those insights really quickly and easily, and not huge depth, but just really that kind of surface level insight that we get. Yeah, so it's a different homepage. It's much more personalized. You can choose which metrics you want to do, and it provides kind of text-based summaries as well, and insights that come in. We'll talk a little bit about the IG side of that in a moment. So yeah, just blitzing through all these kind of points, and our idea as well that we can have it on mobile, and it can just be a much smoother and quicker experience for different people to come in and have an idea of what's going on in their data. So just a few ideas that we're seeing out there and people are starting to talk about, just a range of it. So things like waiting lists. We can basically, any data we have in healthcare, we can be using Tableau Pulses for. And providing us notifications as well. So waiting list, A&E, finance, just a couple that I was thinking about as preparing for this and have been talking to other people about. But we'll see what Dave is using his for in a moment, and maybe if we can pick on Graham, he might talk to us a bit about what he has in mind. So on to the main part that I wanted to talk about, which is really getting your data ready. So those of you who started to think about LLM models or about ChatGPT, or thinking about things like Tableau Pulse or ThoughtSpots or other areas of business where we're looking at surfacing these quick insights through the new software that's coming out, this kind of first wave, we'll know that actually having your data in the right shape for it is really the biggest part of the battle. And it's really key. So even if this is not really something realistically that your organization can do right now, is jump over to Tableau Cloud and start creating pulses yourself, you can start thinking about, okay, where am I at with my data journey? What do I need to have in order for the Tableau pulses to be at their best? So first main point is time. The IG especially takes ages. I think that's where both Arden and Gem and where Greater Manchester are at the moment, even though they're on the Tableau Cloud migration journey, even though some of the tech is set up, they're still waiting in earnest to start using it because of waiting for different DPIAs and so on to be signed off. So we all know this takes a long time. So make sure that when you're planning out your journey and your roadmap, you're thinking about that, and maybe get the ball rolling on some of that as well, if there's places you can do. And yeah, Graham was saying to me, it's not an exact science. There's going to be different issues, and it's going to be individual for each and every organization. So leave time for that. Second point is you want the data to be as granular as possible, so not pre-aggregating, and also within the business logic. So in Greater Manchester, for example, they used to have the business logic loaded at the database level, and they found that this wasn't that Tableau Pulse wasn't able to surface up the insights at the depth that they wanted it to be to do with that. So they've kind of remapped and re-architected the data slightly to put that into calculations rather than preloaded in the database. And then just all the stuff that you'd be thinking about anyway, data quality, real-time capability with live connections, defining the metrics. So that's a piece that's really important. So it's not just a case of talking to your database administrators and engineers and making sure that all the data is in shape and prepared. It's also about talking to your community, gathering the right stakeholders together and really asking them, what do you want how do you want to look at this? Is this helpful to look in week to date or month to date or year to date? What are the questions that are most important to answer? Which metrics are most useful? And really get that clear idea, and then also get the idea of what the thresholds, what the comparisons are that you want. If you're going to be looking at benchmarking, looking at targets, looking at improvements, and so on, just getting that really clear within your organization. And yeah, just being really clear, just good practice across the database, the data landscape, really just metadata, naming, all the sort of governance that we think about anyway. With an implementation, yeah, there's a lot to think through in cloud migration. You really want to kind of have that assessed beforehand if you can. If you're preparing to move over to cloud, are you ready? What's that going to look like? How long is it going to take? What do you need to do? Those are really important questions to ask. If I can cheekily, Charlotte, let me get away with it, but Interworks has a free Tableau cloud migration thing, so feel free to get a hold of us if that's something that's of interest to you. We already talked about IG and the stakeholder buy-in, and yeah, make sure that you are keeping your governance in mind. One of the things that hasn't really evolved very well yet in Tableau Pulse, which is still kind of coming, is some of the governance controls that you might want. So for example, pretty much anyone with a creator license can create a Tableau Pulse, and then you've got this catalog you can walk through and that the viewers can come and choose from. And if you didn't have any governance around that, it'd just be kind of the Wild West. Just rather than 10 or 20 bespoke pulses to come and subscribe to, you would just end up with loads and loads and loads of near duplicates, even though Tableau Pulse has quite nice features to stop you from making exact duplicates. So you want to think about how you can manage that and training and such as well. So that's it. I've got a couple of other bits and pieces if they come up in specific questions to show, but I will hand over to David and then check in what's happening with John, and we'll have some Q&A at the end of this as well. Great. So over to you, David.
I think you need to, yeah, there we go. Thank you.
Will they be able to hear me on that as well?
Yeah, they should be able to pick up.
Okay. Right. Let me just share. Whoa. did not mean to do that. 2 seconds.
You're as bad as me.
How did that happen? Okay. Right. I think I can do this. There we go. Right. I think that'll work. I don't know whether it's switching between, but I'll give it a go. Okay. So yes, sort of as Rowan said, we've AGEM works with Interworks from a few different angles. So from the sort of server side through to giving consultancy support. It's not showing full screen. Do you know how to do that?
It should just do it.
Sorry, 2 secs. Let me just. How did you go?
I shared entire screen.
Entire screen. I think that's what made it go crazy.
And then quickly go down to here. Share. Oh, it did that to me.
Okay. So I'll just have to put it in now. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So I can't do the full screen. So this is it. Yeah. So myself and Rowan have been working on sort of how we might bring Tableau Pulse into our sort of landscape. So at Arden and Gem, we've got a portal. So similar to Dilesh with their portal, we've got our own portal in Arden and Gem where we push up dashboards. This is what ours looks like, and we have different types of content coming onto that. So kind of our portal is tool agnostic, so we can push up Tableau dashboards, we can push up R, Shiny, we can do Power BI. So that's kind of based on the needs of our customers. So we have a portal to start with. So that's quite important. And then we start to develop content through that. So I think generally we've got like the bulk of our the things we put up there is dashboards. So like this example, we've got dashboards that explain the wider health system, and then we also do news articles that are based on sort of topical areas, and we started developing case finding tools, which is for mostly for operational use. So for say GP and clinicians to be able to almost do it's kind of unlocking their systems really. So a GP, we might have a case finding tool that allows them to go into it and search like you would say on Auto Trader, and search for say people who have got sort of poor care management of say diabetes. So we've developed some case finding tools. So this is sort of the reason I'm showing this is we've got many different content types. So we're not necessarily all just doing sort of analytical dashboards. We're trying to develop, sort of make the portal more interesting to a wider user base really. So the news articles are about, can we do quick topical things? So that's us. I think where we really saw sort of advantages for Tableau Pulse was in that sort of self-serve analytics. So really, given that we've got a portal, how do we kind of land that? So that was a big thing for us. I think we use Pulse to. We have customers that say we just want to see sort of all these tables and we want to be able to query it ourselves, and we want to, or you might get finance people who want to say, we just want to be able to keep querying the data. And so often we'll sort of work with people and try to figure out what the decisions they're making and what the questions they're answering. But I think there's always this thing around self-serve analytics that can we deliver them sort of they're almost like tables from SQL that they can then easily sort of query and interrogate. So I think that's where we saw Tableau Pulse. So I'll just stop sharing and share again and show you what we did in Pulse. Still not letting me.
If you go on to the different tab after you've shared it, move straight off to the tab that you want to share.
Do you want to?
Which tab that one?
Yeah. Cool. Okay. So this is kind of our first stab. So it was really all about sort of second or third stab at actually. First off, we looked at waiting lists, so the national waiting list data, and we sort of, all of this is dummy data. The waiting list data was also, we sort of did a dummy cut of the waiting list data. So this, first off, we struggled a little bit with, as Rowan was saying, the sort of the pre-aggregation of some of the waiting list data was not really giving us a massive amount of insight. And I think that point about can we allow end users to come on and really start to query their data is, I think you need to be disaggregated to a level that allows them to start interrogating the things that are interesting to them. So the national waitlist tables from SQL, the published data, didn't really help us there. We also looked at some of the SLAM reporting. So I don't know if any of you are familiar with that. That's kind of the sort of the finance and the planned activity versus the actual versus a plan, both for finance and activity. And that again was sort of at an aggregated level that didn't really allow us to the user sort of interface wasn't great with that. I think as well, when we're talking about things rolling up and rolling down, if you've got lots of things that are grouped that actually don't add up together anyway, then I think that seems to hurt quite a bit. So the data set we then started to look at, I think maybe I've worked with the hospitals quite a bit in the past, so I sort of felt that maybe we could do something at a daily level for hospital attendances. So again, dummy data here, but this is a real sort of structured looking data set with similar to what we would find in the NHS. And so there's a few things in here around A&E attends, A&E costs, and then the duration in A&E. And so to be able to sort of come in here and sort of, I mean, I guess the beauty with some of this is that these sort of charts are just produced really quick, and it then allows us to really think through, so what's the use for that? So okay, so we can start to see the direction of travel A&E is going in. It's highlighted here in bold that it is within the expected range. So if you think of the work we've probably done in the past around SPCs, and do we see step changes in activity? Well, actually, Tableau's starting to do that. And I think if we had a longer, because it was a dummy data set, we only had sort of 6 months going back. If you had that sort of for over a couple of years, then would that help you to understand, are we seeing peaks due to seasonality, or is it, and is it in the range of that seasonality? So I think that's straight away, that's a real, for an analyst to be able to chuck data in here and start to look at it for quality. All the data quality things still exist, don't they? But just to be able to start throwing things in and start to see patterns straight away. Sorry. Okay, so and then you would get your end user to be looking at that as a, that's their metrics, and then they can come and see a bit more detail. And so you can start to understand here the trend started to slow on March the 1st. So you're starting to get some plain English descriptions, and then you get your top insights. So for this, in this period that we're looking at, and we only chose previous month, so you can change that to that could be year to date or financial year to date or something. So what you're seeing here is that what Tableau, the sort of generative AI has given us here is that these are some of the chief complaint groups that have really dropped off. So gastrointestinal, and that's interesting from a clinician's perspective or a decision maker in a hospital to say, okay, that maybe chimes with what we're thinking. So I think in terms of like that trust, I think is opening up these data sets to people who make decisions is if you can start to give them information like this, does that help them? Still a question mark on that. And then they can go further, so they can sort of, again, straight out the box, you can go into a bit more detail and start to look at, actually, do we want to, that chief complaint detail, do we want to look more? We don't just want to look at what's decreasing, what are the increasing things? So we can start to see those. And I'm not going to use the ask thing because I'll mess it up. We've got another example for that. So you can look at that, and then you can go, actually, from a demographic perspective, who are the groups that are increasing? So the most deprived have increased by 11% from the previous month. So I think for me that's kind of being able to set things up for the end user, and I think it feels like we would still spend a lot of time with the end user to sort of develop the dashboards that they want. But for A&E, you're thinking of attends, A&E costs, duration. We're not getting into the rest of the hospital, so bed stays and all of that. But I think it's pretty good what we managed to get out in a real quick turnaround. Okay, so let me share. Come on, I'll share again. Just doing my head in. Sorry about this. Okay, back to presentation. Yeah, so main findings then of what we looked at was really we're questioning would this give decision makers, end users, confidence in the output. So that, as Rowan was saying, that sort of simple way of visualizing with plain English, will that help people understand trends if they're clearly and consistently sort of explained? So that, I think that was kind of our first question that we wanted to, we will be testing with end users. The second bit is about, does giving them the controls to dig deeper, does that help them? Does that make them help them feel like they've got a handle on things, even if they search for all those different dimensions and actually they found that there's no real obvious things that they didn't know already? Does that, maybe that gives them confidence in the data? And I guess the whole thing with this metrics thing is, it's about monitoring, isn't it? So the more they can get comfortable with it, then will they see where there are spikes in the future, and will they, maybe take action from those? So I think that's kind of second main finding. I think Rowan mentioned this about that sort of fatigue. So does regular emails, or whether it's emails or sort of visuals like this that fire off to teams, does that mean they're kept up to date in a way that they want to be kept up to date? And does it sort of give them, does it send more hits to Tableau Pulse generally? So seeing it in teams, would that sort of result in more sort of going on, trying to find out more about the area they're interested in? So there's that kind of balance between, or will it cause fatigue with getting hit by lots of these messages? Final slide then. I think this was something Rowan had sort of shown that we'd not really thought about. But we've been working a bit with dynamic zone visibility as a way of building out dashboards and being able to, like often the client might say, well, I now want to find this out, and all of a sudden your sort of spec for a dashboard becomes massive. And actually there's probably natural layers here. So there's this example here on the left, you've got sort of the natural layer of that summary level analytics, and then does Pulse, so these buttons that Rowan has, it gives a pop out for Tableau Pulse to sort of have Tableau Pulse working alongside your summary dashboard to start to reveal or give the end user that chance to interrogate things further. So I'm not sure whether you can necessarily see that too clearly. Let me see if I can just show. Yeah, I think we've got an actual clip. So yeah, I can do that. I'm starting to get used to it. So this is the clip Rowan sent through. The Interworks have been working on, because they support clients with their portal. But if I just show you, run through this, hopefully it'll work. So you can see, so you can see that you're able to open up Tableau Pulse, pop out window, and then able to start asking questions of the data. Which I think we've been looking at Pulse to embed it in our portal as a way of giving a tool to end users. Well, actually, we can probably find innovative ways of embedding Pulse into our dashboards, which I thought was a pretty good example, really. And I think it's just so early in the product's sort of development that we're starting to find, that I'm not sure we necessarily know the best ways of bringing this to the client yet. But yeah, Interworks helping out there for us. Okay, so that's that. Rowan, do you want to come in on any of that?
I'll just close off by saying that Tableau Pulse is still, for me personally, it's still a product that's in development. There's still some things that are, it's definitely good enough to be using and used in production. So don't hear me say it's like an immature product in that sense. It's not. But there's still little kinks that are still kind of getting worked out that kind of need to get figured out. There's still things that are happening within the pricing. Thankfully it's actually being democratized a lot more. So there's a lot of the features were being held back for sort of Tableau Plus and upwards, but a lot of them are being rolled out into Tableau now. There's been some changes around that, so which is great, but there's still lots of things on the roadmap, still things coming in. I had a assist call the other day with someone who was struggling to get the features to work the way you wanted, and we couldn't get it. We had to kind of do a little workaround with some calculated fields and things to make it happen. So there's still a little bit of that going on, but it's definitely something I think will start to transform the way that the wider public consume insights, and we're already seeing other products in that space. And so I think it's definitely something that we should be thinking about and should be part of our planning and on our roadmaps if you're not already there on that journey. I will also just share very briefly my screen, which just has a couple of the features across the different editions. This is changing all the time, so a lot of things have gone back onto Tableau Cloud that were previously onto Tableau Plus, and you can see some things that are coming soon within that. I think, as David was saying, as you're looking at that product at the end, that's curated, so that's like a custom built portal type product, and I know that AGM have their own with Athena that they're going to look into doing. So this was just me giving some inspiration for how they could potentially go about doing that on their particular product. But within Tableau itself, you can actually embed pulses into your dashboards, but you can't, for example, resize the pulse, and you can't can't apply filters to it. But those things are very much on the roadmap. These things are kind of getting added in all the time. As to what some of these things, predictions and correlations, even some of my people at Tableau aren't quite sure exactly what those are just yet. But lots of fun things, especially Pulse Discover. And the last thing I'll just close off with saying before we get onto some questions and answers potentially is that from an IG perspective and where your data is going, Tableau Pulse is very self-contained. It has some sort of LLM stuff within it where that does leave and go to America, but that's off by default. So you have to actively go into your Tableau Cloud instance and turn that on, and an administrator, you can control that. That's some of the natural language text insight that comes in at the top of the sort of Pulse UI experience interface. The pulses themselves, they don't. All the stuff that happens, all the insights, all those things stay self-contained within that container. The data doesn't leave the country. So there, it is pretty viable from an IG perspective, which is why we're seeing some people starting to use it already. Yeah, I'll pause there. Are there any questions for myself or for David or I believe Graham Beals is in the room, and he's had some experience in Greater Manchester. So if you want to ask him anything, I'm hoping he might give us some insight too. So I'm always picking on him, but yeah, there we go. I'll hand back to you, Charlotte, if you want to handle those questions and things.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Rowan and Dave, for sharing your journeys with us. Is there any questions from anyone in the room? Doesn't look like there's any questions. Any questions from the chat at all? There's no questions at the moment in the chat.
I'm sure it's been a long day for everybody.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. So that just leaves us to close out this meeting. But before I do, one very important thing. Your attendance here is very... your attendance here is very much appreciated. Everyone that's in attendance in person has been given a little bit of swag. So we're going to just do a swag prize draw for all of you virtual attenders. So I'm going to do the prize draw 3 times. So there'll be 3 winners, and we'll send you out some Tableau swag. So our first... Exciting. Ali, yes? gonna just, yeah, Ali Hitchens. Congratulations, you'll have some Tableau swag winging its way through to you. If you're still online with us, if you could just DM me with your email address, I'll get in touch with you. Let's go again. Ben, you're here. You're here. I'm going to run it again because Ben's in the room. He's already got swag. Trevor Adams, if you're still online, please DM me your email address. Congratulations. And we'll go once more. Just missed out, Padma. Paul, if you're still online, same as the others, if you could DM me your email address, I'll get in touch about how to send that to you. Stop sharing, come back to here. So that just leaves me to say, no, you don't want an iPhone, Dilesh, sorry. So some Tableau swag. Yeah, that just leaves me to say a big thank you to everyone that's joined us online. Big thank you to everyone that's joined us in the room. Thank you also. Laura has snuck out, but Laura has hosted us here today. Laura Ward from Tableau. I think that's everybody. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, me.
Thank you. Absolutely. No, but seriously, thanks everybody. Looking forward to our next one. We'll be announcing a slight change in format, so keep your eyes peeled. And please do remember to invite some of your colleagues along that aren't yet on the membership list as well, so we can get more numbers. The more, the better for everybody.
Yes. Yeah. Super. So, yeah, we finished 15 minutes ahead of time. Thank you so much. You will be getting out a little survey to fill in at the end of this about how you liked the event, what you want to see at future events. So please fill that in because your feedback is vital to us to keep these going and to give you what you want. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you in the room. Safe journeys home. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much. Thank you.